16 fighter jets. That was everything Iran had left. After 53 days of the most intensive air campaign ever conducted against a Middle Eastern nation, after 14 major Israeli strike packages and 9 days of American naval bombardment, after the systematic destruction of every airbase, every underground aircraft shelter, every radar installation, and every surface-to-air missile battery in the country, 16 aging F-14 Tomcats and F-4 Phantoms were all that remained of what had once been one of the most powerful air forces in the region. They had survived by hiding. Dispersed to civilian airports, hidden under camouflage netting in agricultural areas, tucked into highway tunnels converted to improvised hangars, moved every 48 hours on a rotation schedule designed by the last functioning IRGC Air Force general who understood that the moment American or Israeli satellites got a confirmed location on any of these aircraft, they would be targeted within hours. For 11 days, this hiding strategy had worked. The 16 jets were alive. Iran still technically had an air force. And then, on the 54th day of the war, at 0318 hours on a Tuesday morning, all 16 of them were destroyed simultaneously in a coordinated strike on Mehrabad Airport that lasted exactly 9 minutes and 22 seconds, and Iran's air force ceased to exist forever. The intelligence that made the strike possible had been 11 days in the building. Mossad's collection effort against the dispersed Iranian aircraft had been running continuously since the main airbase destruction campaign ended on day 9, combining satellite imagery analysis, signals intelligence from Iranian Air Force encrypted communications, human intelligence from sources inside the Iranian aviation maintenance community, and pattern-of-life surveillance from persistent Iran TP drones orbiting at 45,000 feet above Tehran around the clock. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a maintenance technician at Mehrabad Airport who had been a Mossad asset for 4 years and who transmitted a single encrypted message at 2140 hours 10 days after the main campaign ended. The message contained GPS coordinates accurate to 3 meters and a single sentence. All 16 aircraft consolidated here last night. Full maintenance crew on site, they are preparing for a mission. The intelligence was assessed as highly credible within 40 minutes and was in front of the Israeli Prime Minister and the American National Security Advisor within 90 minutes of receipt. The consolidation of all 16 surviving Iranian aircraft at a single location was simultaneously the best news either government had received in 53 days and the clearest indication that Iranian commanders were planning something significant. A dispersed force hides. A consolidated force prepares to strike. Whatever Iran was planning to do with its last 16 aircraft, it would never get the chance. The target package for Mehrabad was assembled in 4 hours by a joint Israeli-American targeting team working from the Mossad assets, GPS coordinates, and 3 hours of fresh satellite imagery showing the exact positions of all 16 aircraft on the airport's military apron. Mehrabad is not a purely military facility, it is Tehran's secondary commercial airport, still handling limited civilian traffic, which made the targeting geometry significantly more complex than a standard airbase strike. The Israeli Air Force assigned the Missio N to 6 F-35I Adir stealth fighters from the 116th Squadron carrying a specific combination of weapons, chosen to maximize aircraft destruction while minimizing collateral effects on the civilian terminal buildings 800 meters away. Each Adir carried 2 Spice 2000 precision-guided bombs programmed with specific GPS coordinates corresponding to each aircraft's last confirmed position, and 2 Python 5 air-to-air missiles for self-defense in the unlikely event that any Iranian aircraft managed to get airborne before the strike was complete. The B-2 element, 2 Spirit bombers flying support, carried GBU-31JDAMs targeting the military hangar complex and the underground fuel storage that served the military apron, ensuring that even if any aircraft survived the initial Spice 2000 strikes, they would have nowhere to shelter and nothing to fly on. The Mossad ground element was already in position when the F-35 is crossed into Iranian airspace. 3 two-man teams operating under deep cover in Tehran had been pre-positioned around Mehrabad's perimeter fence during the previous 36 hours, each team carrying a laser designator capable of providing terminal guidance for the Spice 2000, bombs against specific aircraft if the GPS coordinates proved to have shifted since the last satellite pass. Team 1 was positioned on the northern perimeter with direct line of sight to 8 of the 16 aircraft. Team 2 was on the eastern side covering 5 more. Team 3, positioned closest to the military apron's southern boundary, had eyes on the remaining 3 aircraft including the 2 F-14 Tomcats that Iranian commanders had been protecting most carefully throughout the dispersal operation, aircraft that Iranian planners had reportedly been considering for a last symbolic strike against Israeli territory as a final defiant gesture before the regime accepted ceasefire terms. All 3 teams activated their laser designators. At 0315 hours, 3 minutes before the first Spice 2000 bomb was programmed to impact. The aircraft were lit, the bombers were 3 minutes out, The 16 jets that represented the last shred of Iranian air power had no idea what was coming and no time to react if they had. The first Spice 2000 bombs impacted at 0318 hours and 21 seconds. In the following 9 minutes and 1 second, 11 more precision-guided munitions struck the military apron at Mehrabad in a sequence precisely choreographed to prevent the blast and fire from one impact interfering with the terminal guidance of the next incoming weapon. The F-14s went first, both struck simultaneously by Spice 2000 bombs that penetrated their upper fuselage before detonating, ensuring complete structural destruction rather than the superficial damage that a proximity detonation might have allowed. The 6 surviving F-4 Phantoms were destroyed in the next 90 seconds. 4 struck by direct hits and 2 consumed by the fuel fire that spread from the ruptured tanks of the aircraft hit immediately adjacent to them. The remaining 8 aircraft, a mix of F-7 Airguards and AMX, jets that Iran had acquired through sanctions-busting procurement channels over the previous decade, were destroyed in the final 6 minutes of the strike by a combination of direct Spice 2000 hits and the 2 GBU-31 impacts on the hangar complex that collapsed the roof onto 3 aircraft that had been partially sheltered inside. The military fuel storage detonated at 0325 hours when a GBU-31 penetrated its reinforced concrete cover, creating a fireball visible from downtown Tehran that residents would later describe as looking like the sun rising in the wrong direction at the wrong time. The Mossad ground teams were already moving to their extraction points before the last bomb impacted. All 6 operators were out of the airport perimeter before Iranian security forces reached the military apron. All 3 teams reached their safe houses before dawn. The Iranian Air Force general, who had spent 11 days hiding 16 aircraft from American and Israeli satellites, learned what had happened to them from a phone call at 0341 hours. He was found by his personal security detail 30 minutes later, sitting in his office with the encrypted phone still in his hand, staring at a wall. He said nothing for 4 hours. And there was, in the strictest military sense, nothing to say. The Islamic Republic of Iran had acquired its first military aircraft in 1948, for 78 years through revolution. Through an 8-year war with Iraq, through decades of sanctions that made spare parts nearly impossible to obtain, through the constant pressure of American and Israeli military superiority, Iran had always maintained some form of air force. Some number of aircraft, some pilots, some capacity to put something in the sky. On the morning of the 54th day of the war, that capacity reached 0 for the first time in 78 years, and it would not be rebuilt in any time frame that mattered to anyone currently making decisions about the war's future. The skies above Tehran, above the entire Islamic Republic, now belonged to anyone with an aircraft and a reason to fly there. Iran had none of the former and too many of the latter. The last 16 jets were gone, the Air Force was over. And somewhere on the military apron at Mehrabad Airport, the smoking wreckage of 2 F-14 Tomcats that had once been among the most capable interceptors ever built lay in debris fields that forensic teams would later measure at 40 meters across, the final physical evidence of a military aviation history that had ended at 0327 hours and 43 seconds on a Tuesday morning in Tehran.